What is up, esteemed douchebags? Welcome back to Rocky Talkie. Happy New Year! Hooray!
Yay!
And it turns out, in a dramatic change of events, that 2021 is exactly the same as 2020.
I called it last week, guys.
You honestly did. Wow, Nicki, out here being Nostradamus with the future predictions. Good for you, buddy.
It's pronounced Nostradamus.
Heyo. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. We hope 2021 has gotten off to a great start for all of you. Aaron, Nicki, how are you all doing for your first week?
It's been a week, John. It's been a week. Instead of talking about any of that, though, I'll tell you that I watched Netflix's new series this week, The History of Swear Words.
I actually saw that yesterday when Savannah and I were going through Netflix trying to figure out what to watch. Is it good?
It was great. It was absolutely fun. It taught me a lot of ways that I can use to express myself about my feelings about this week. But yeah, no, it's real funny. Nicolas Cage saying fuck for an hour. Like, that's just fun. I liked it a lot.
It sounds fun.
Nicki, what were you up to?
I did something a little... it was very monumentous to me, but it sounds very uneventful. I got my boyfriend to watch all of my favorite Sandra Bullock movies with me. So we started with The Proposal, and we watched Hope Floats, and we watched While You Were Sleeping. Like, we went through it, and we had a good time.
I had no idea that you were a Sandra Bullock stan.
Oh my god, you don't even know how deep that shit goes.
I clearly didn't, and I have so much more respect for you now.
I love my Sandy girl.
My Sandy girl. Coolest thing that happened to me this week was I'm one of the proud owners of a PS5 now.
Yay!
Which is wild.
Exciting!
I know. I'm like one of the only people like on the planet right now who owns one and actually plays it and isn't selling it for $1,000.
Check out the big brain on John.
I know.
Brain
Look
energy.
how gigantic my brain is.
Let's settle down.
Massive. Yeah, it's really cool. I have one singular game for it. I have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it is so pretty. So for everyone who's thinking about getting a PS5, if you have the chance to get one, I do highly recommend it.
Nice.
It's beautiful. Just don't expect to put anything on top of it because it's not flat like all the other gaming systems are. It's got like this new fancy curve on it. So I had to reorganize like my entire desk. As you can tell, that is the most exciting thing that I did this week.
All right.
I live a life of luxury, folks.
Listen, I don't judge.
As you shouldn't. All right, everyone, let's get into our first segment of the podcast. We're going to be talking about global news. We don't have much in the way of global news this week, admittedly. Oddly enough, I think the news has been kind of preoccupied with all the other stuff happening recently. But Susan Sarandon has been in the tabloids a lot for some like really positive stuff, which is always super nice to see.
Yeah, I saw a really nice article about Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange. I think most people know Jessica Lange from American Horror Story, but Lange and Sarandon also worked together in 2017 on the FX series Feud, Betty and Joan. It was a show about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford during the making of the 1962 film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The article was just a nice piece about how they were out together being two good Samaritan girls in New York City. Ugh. They were out for a walk, presumably getting followed around by this paparazzi who caught them scandalously giving money to a man who was in need and helping an older woman with a cane into her wheelchair. Oh.
Wow.
Bitches.
Juicy stuff. Probably made that paparazzi's day.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb that they'd get followed around like that for literally no reason. But at least they were caught doing nice stuff, I guess. It's certainly better than if they went around being mean. And plus, it was cool of the guy to write the article about them being good people.
So she's been in the news quite a bit. Just recently, I had read an article about how she joined the advisory council for the Movement for a People's Party. For those of you who, may be under a rock with Rocky Horror news, Susan Sarandon is very politically outspoken. She's been like this for quite some time. And it looks like that she's continuing with that by joining in with this organization. Now, we absolutely are not a political show, but we'll tell you about MPP quickly. They're basically an organization that is trying to create a third viable political party so that people aren't stuck having to choose between only Democratic or Republican in an election. According to their website, their vision is a major new progressive populist party that delivers what regular people take for granted in so many other countries, like single-payer health care, free public college, money out of politics, an infrastructure jobs program, a $15 minimum wage, financial regulations, and more, which is like absolutely wild. I've been meeting people from all across the world since I started streaming on Twitch, and let me tell you that they are all like beside themselves when we Americans who, you know, engage in chat and stuff, and of course me myself, talk about like what we get. And get is a broad term because we don't really get much. Because they'll be like, shit, I had to take an ambulance to the ER and I was mad because it cost me 20 pounds. And I was like, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that sounds very much ideal compared to the current situation. But
Right.
Susan Sarandon's getting involved?
Yeah, according to their site, the Advisory Council brings together activists, organizers, and leaders from across the country and many different fields. Academics, artists, commentators, students, labor organizations, nonprofit leaders, scientists, and elected officials have all come together to help build a major new People's Party free of corporate money.
So it looks like that Susan will be working with them as like a well-known, outspoken activist, and she'll be using her platform to help get other people involved. I'm not sure what, if anything else, her role will entail, but really, honestly, good for her for getting involved in a cause that she believes in. Again, just to reiterate, we aren't a political show. We aren't advocating for this political party or any other, but it's really cool to hear about one of our favorites being passionate about this. If any of you are interested and you want to learn more, we're linking the Movement for a People's Party, MPP, in our show notes.
Nice. So now we can vote for Giant Douche, Turd Sandwich, or Free Hugs?
Yeah, I know where my ballot is going.
Yep, Turd Sandwich all the way. All right, I've
Yep.
got one more, though. This one's a stretch, but did you guys see that Susan Sarandon's daughter, Eva Amurri, who split up last year with her now ex-husband, Kyle Martino, is now dating Ian Hawke? He's a chef from New York City. Apparently, she went to high school with him.
That is so sweet. I love Eva Amurri. Saved is such a fucking classic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that she's doing good.
It definitely seems like she's happy. She says she and her new boyfriend are both foodies. Big surprise, he's a chef. Love going to museums. They're both bookworms. They both speak French. And they formed a really special friendship before they started dating.
That's absolutely the best. I love when shit like that happens. My boyfriend Josh and I were best friends for 2 years before we started dating. And I feel like that just puts like a whole different outlook on the relationship itself. Because it's like you don't have to go through the awkwardness of like getting to know each other while also trying to build a relationship. You already know each other's families. You already know like the flaws and the pros and the cons, and you're so comfortable with each other. I don't know. It was so nice. It was like such a nice journey to go on with your best friend and just be like, okay, we're just going to figure out how to like love each other now. And it's going to be great.
And to be fair, we were all just kind of waiting for it to happen too.
Yeah, I feel like when we made it official, everyone was like, is this not already the case?
It was one of two things. It was either, is this not already the case, or is this a joke?
Yeah.
Because, like, the two of you were super, super close, and it's like, we're dating, ha ha ha, and we're like, ha ha ha.
Good funny, haha.
Ha ha, that's funny joke.
You guys are bored on a Saturday.
I was literally clarifying this for like 3 weeks after you guys got together. They're like, no, not a joke. They really are. No, I swear, they really are.
So many people messaged me, and they were like, is this real? And I was like, yeah, I got family on Facebook, bro. Don't fuck around. But anyway.
Yeah, good for you, Ava. We wish you luck with your new relationship. And with that, let's move on to...
Community news.
Yeah.
We have one super exciting write-in this week that we're going to get right off the bat. This is from Harley, from Tesseract Players, RKO, and FBC. And their message is, Tesseract players are performing in their annual Arista convention virtually this year. We've been doing this convention for about 15 years now, and this is the first virtual version of it due to COVID. It has always been a very special convention to the Tesseracts. We are performing Rocky Horror this Friday, so that's January 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Buffy and Dr. Horrible on Saturday, January 16th at 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be streamed on the Tesseract's Twitch page, twitch.tv/Tesseract for public viewing, or if you want to join in on the sci-fi convention fun, passes are available for that too. Arista was founded as a nonprofit in 1989 to hold conventions and to promote science fiction and fantasy in all forms. Normally hosted in the Westin in South Boston, attendees could roam the halls dressed as their favorite characters or as their own created characters for a weekend of nerdy fun. Ugh, this sounds so awesome. I want to be there.
Go ahead.
I can't.
Oh, well, regardless, this is going to be absolutely amazing. Tesseract has put on some really, really, really fun virtual shows for us during lockdown, and this one is probably going to be even more high energy because even if it's virtual, they're still performing for a convention, and all of us who are performed at a convention know about that like little boost of endorphins that you get when you're performing at an away show. You get those like really excited vibes, really excited jitters, you know? I feel like it gives the performers that much more oomph.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's part of the reason outside performances are so much fun. I know the thing that gives me excited jitters about this show, though, are Buffy and Dr. Horrible. Rocky will always be the best one, of course, but I really love seeing both of those shows performed. They're quick, they're tightly paced. I feel like the performers always seem like they're having the best time, and they get to do something a little different.
Yeah, I'd never even seen either Dr. Horrible or Buffy Shadowcasted before I watched Tesseract's virtual shows towards the start of lockdown, and I had a great time. I'm definitely looking forward to watching all three of these performances this weekend. I'm utterly and undeniably bored stuck in my house, and these shows sound like a lot of fun, and it's all I have going for me. But no, I really do love the idea of holding a virtual con. I think that's really cool, and honestly, I might even go check out some of the other stuff going on, since I don't get to or have to go all the way to Boston to attend this year. If you'd like to check it out with me, the convention's website is just arisia.org. We're linking it in our show notes. And the best part of the convention, Tesseract shows, will be streamed on twitch.tv/Tesseract. We'll be linking that in our show notes too.
2020 was a terrible year for like pretty much everything, but I do kind of like the virtual shows that came out of it. I sort of hope that we can like keep them around, and once we get back to our IRL shows, I think it'll be cool to have that supplemental virtual show every so often. Sometimes watching things from home is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I mean, 2020 was great for virtual shows. We had so many. You know what else it was great for? It was great for Frank jackets.
What?
You heard me. So I've been waiting all year long to do a 2020 recap about the Frank jacket and all the new things we learned throughout the year. Spotlight some community members that made amazing discoveries and did a ton of legwork to make sure that this specific costume piece is a lot more accessible for performers out there.
Wait, is there all that much? Like, how are there new developments for a costume piece? It's been like 45 years after the movie came out.
Of course there's new info. Have you met Rocky people?
All right, fine, but we better start out with these basics. Like, I love Rocky and playing Frank, but even I can't tell you half the things on that jacket. My jacket is just full of pins and patches that I think are funny.
Haha.
Nice. I'm going to make you talk about that later.
All right.
For this whole next bit, we're going to be talking about what the community refers to as the Frank jacket. That's the leather jacket that Frank wears for when he's whipping riffraff in Dr. Scott's entrance. He's wearing it all the way up to discovering Rocky and Janet in the tank till the start of dinner scene.
It's got a ton of pins, or as the Brits call them, badges, and a bunch of patches for all kinds of like motorcycle and biker brands. It is no question the most detailed, expensive, complicated, and difficult costume piece for anyone to try to reproduce.
77. It has 77 badge and 20 patches, along with studs, chain, there's a painted on logo on there. It's got this like bright red lining, and there's some really specific intricate details like special pulls for the zippers. It's got fragments of fringe that were left when it was cut off the jacket. The origin of this thing's actually really kind of fascinating. The jacket was not a costume piece that was made by Sue Blaine. In fact, it was actually owned by Tim Curry, and he built it up over the years as he added and removed a bunch of these different badges and patches. You can totally see him wearing it in a bunch of press photos in the late 70s and early 80s. And just this year, 2020, community member Brandon Citrina also discovered an entire full-length copy of the 1983 movie Video Stars, where Tim wears the jacket as part of his ensemble.
Oh, shit.
That's so cool. Another movie with the Frank jacket. That totally provided some new images for the community to mull over.
It was super neat to see, and especially to check out the badges that had been swapped out after filming Rocky. There's a few things on there that collectors have started to scramble to pick up originals for. The video's pretty low quality, and it's kind of difficult to pick out details, but there's a couple little things that have sparked a lot of discussion.
Wait. So you're saying that people are buying pins to match the screen accuracy of a jacket from a film that isn't Rocky?
I don't think that should surprise anyone.
No, of course, you're right. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
So why don't people just look at the original jacket? Doesn't someone own that? I'm sure I've seen pictures of it online.
All right, so there's a guy, his name is Mike Scott, which sounds like a euphemism, but it's not. He owns what is generally assumed to be Frank's, original jacket. He purchased it at an auction from the 59 Club, many years ago. And he has a website with photos of it. He's a collector of, original movie jackets and memorabilia because everybody needs a hobby. And he also owns things like the jacket and jetpack from The Rocketeer and the EVA spacesuit from Kubrick's 1968-2001 A Space Odyssey.
The thing is, though, the Frank jacket that he's got has been refurbished, and Mike isn't exactly super active in the Rocky community. He's more of a general memorabilia collector. So, in the course of him refurbishing it, some of the original patches were lost, the leather was repaired, the badges were cleaned, so they had to have been taken off and put back on. And the community's kind of identified several of the badges and patches that are likely replaced with replicas or other versions. So even today, we're finding differences by using photographs and screenshots. Hell, just a month or two ago, it was pointed out that the eagle patch that's on Frank's arm is actually gold thread and not white, like we thought for the last 40 years. So, while the community is pretty sure that Mike's jacket is original, if it isn't, it's an extremely good reproduction, and he would have had to have pieced it together years before anyone had hunted down some of the details that we only recently have figured out, and then made those match the movie. It's pretty clearly the original. We all think so.
I know a couple people who have Frank jackets, but not that many people, in the grand scheme of the community, seek out to make a replica of Frank's jacket.
Yeah, there's very few people that, I personally know in the community who are attempting to make that replica. Aaron is one of them. I know Zephyr's one of them. I believe Brandon Citrina is one of them. But, it's really surprising. Given how anal everyone is about costuming in general, it is definitely the most challenging costume piece to just completely reproduce.
That makes sense, though. It wouldn't be super fun for people to seek out if it was easy. It's a quest.
Yeah, it's like a video game.
I mean, I know the gotta collect 'em all difficulty in it is definitely what got me into working on it.
And you don't even play Frank.
No, not in at least 10 years or so. I'm in it for the collectible aspect. I love costuming, and the Frank jacket scratches both of those itches, so well.
Yeah, but, when we're back at NYC, performing in public, maybe I'll just, cast myself as Frank and then just, not show up on a night that I know you're going to be there, you know? And then I'll just talk to Meg to, bring your Frank stuff to there without you knowing, and, you won't have a choice.
Ooh.
If you think I would actually wear that thing on a stage around people, Jesus Christ, no. Anyway, I don't know how to segue out of that. Whatever. The thing about this jacket, though, that makes it fun, right, is it's got so many elements that are, varying difficulty to find. There's, stuff that's more rare than other stuff. Some of the stuff's super easy to find. Some of it's completely impossible. You can only get it in a different color or a different shape. There's just tons of variations for every single piece that's on the jacket.
Like different colors, different sizes, there's like slight shape variations, there's different years, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's fun.
But isn't it like disgustingly expensive to collect?
Yes, it is, and that's why Aaron is one of the only people who is doing it.
Fuck.
Like, a complete Frank jacket is in the multiple, like, thousands of dollars once you pick up all the badges individually. Like, I looked at some of them at one point, and I just, like, noped right the fuck out. Like, you can buy, like, literally every costume piece for every character for the same price that you spend on a singular Frank jacket. It's absolutely fucking asinine.
It is certainly not cheap. And, like, definitely more akin to somebody hunting for collectibles, right? I think that's kind of the appeal. You can build a Frank jacket organically and have it adjust to your spending habits, right? There's a wider range of options that you have. As a collector, you get to decide how interested you are in the different pieces and where you think your completion point is.
Oh, so like trying to collect one of each badge for a screen accurate jacket, not being overly concerned about minor variations.
Sure, you get to ask yourself, like, do you have to have an original of each and every badge and patch? Like, even beyond that, do you want to have all those patches embroidered with, like, the proper gold stitching? Are you going to hand stitch it or hunt down originals? Or, like, are some of them good enough?
And what about for badges and patches you can't find? Do you want reproductions? Do you want to make your own? One of my cast members told me that a lot of Franks used to try Shrinky Dinks or those other like DIY button makers as a way of making replacement pieces.
All these are exactly the kind of stuff that you think about when you're beginning this giant quest for the Frank jacket. The whole thing that's cool about it is it has such an incredibly high ceiling for how specific and exact you want to be. And you can always say, oh, there's a better piece out there that I want to get, even if it's just a slightly prettier version of something you've already got. But with all that, I mean, there's the cost. It is extremely high. At least most of the badges and patches are also sought out by collectors of motorcycle memorabilia, so that means that A, they're going to maintain their value, that's good if you're buying them, but also they're pretty well sought after, and not just in the Rocky community, so the prices are high and they're stable.
But we definitely need to make it clear to our listeners, nobody should ever feel pressured to build a Frank jacket, Aaron. It's like the number one piece that even if you are a totally anally screen accurate cast, you're going to get a pass for not having it. Like, there are tons of other options out there. Like, instead, you could pick up a cheap leather jacket at a thrift shop and use a pile of your own pins, maybe from your cast or even like non-Rocky ones that you've picked up over the years. Like, make it a personal item. There are two things that I really love and value when it comes to Rocky Horror Shadowcast costuming. It's like, we love the super screen accurate things, and we love the stuff that we still make it look relatively accurate, but it's something that is like our own, you know? Like, so Savannah and I have two jackets. She has one and I have one. Their jacket has like spikes, studs on the shoulder, a lot of like very obviously like very Savannah pins and patches on it, whereas mine has like a Pokemon patch on it. There's words on the back of it that spell like dad or daddy or something like that. I have a little pin that I got from a thrift shop that says I Heart Grandma on it. Like, shit like that.
I love that crap, man.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making something that has, like, an endless level of customization your own. But at the same time, if you're the type of person who's really into collecting things, then kind of like your magnum opus in terms of Rocky Horror stuff is going to be that Frank jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you want a cute gag, I've seen a lot of Franks use Eddie's jacket. It's super convenient, and it's an amusing gag that the audience definitely enjoys.
Exactly. There are tons of alternatives, so like 100%, nobody should feel like they are any less of a Frank for not wanting to dig into this kind of costume piece. And frankly, you see what I did there? Something that is often talked about in the community of folks building the Frank jackets is one of the bigger reasons you might not be drawn to it. Or even if, like, cost isn't a factor. Some of the patches and badges are just, like, not appropriate anymore.
That's a great point. You got to remember, this is a jacket that Tim constructed in the 70s and 80s punk movement. So there's multiple Nazi patches on this thing. One of them's the Nazi eagle. That's the bird with the swastika underneath it. There's patches and badges from the Hells Angels. There's some from the 59 Club and other motorcycle clubs. A lot of these things are intended to be worn only by club members. And, like, you don't want to piss off a Hells Angel.
You do not want to piss off a Hells Angel, I know from experience.
Wait, really?
No. So a lot of people choose to cover up, cross out, or otherwise obfuscate the offensive patches. But it's a really difficult choice to make between screen accuracy and something that you yourself wouldn't wear. And you might limit your ability to wear the jacket in, like, non-Rocky, polite company. You know, like cosplaying at a comic convention as Whipping Scene Frank. Or, like, for an appearance at an event that isn't specifically devoted to Rocky, where everyone just knows, like, oh, that's on the jacket.
Right. You don't want to show up at Comic-Con and get rejected from walking in because you've got a bunch of Nazi crap on your sleeves, you know? So, I'm sure you're all wondering, let's talk about the cost while we're listing out all these reasons why you don't want to collect this thing or why you shouldn't start. So, many of these badges, we've talked about it, they're extremely expensive, if you can even find them. That's even a bigger problem, right? Lots of these have been snatched up over the years by Rocky fans and motorcycle collectors. So even though a lot of them were mass produced, finding them on eBay is still a really long, arduous slog. Through some patience, hunting for a few years, and spending a couple $1,000s, you can get really close to a complete set. I just recently got to the point with my jacket where I have all the badges and patches. Some are reproductions, a lot of them are originals, some of them are slight variations, but just the patches and badges, they ran me over $3,000.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, and I thought I was fucking crazy for spending $1,100 on the original 151 Pokemon cards.
You are fucking crazy, but I think I am too. And we all knew that, right?
That's like half a gaming computer.
That's double a gaming computer.
That's what I meant. Yeah, and I didn't say that right. But what?
I was saying mine is $1,500.
Yeah, that's how much Josh got for his.
Yep.
Let me at least tell you, it's a lot cheaper if you're actually in the UK, though. Because the source for almost all of this stuff is the UK. These were all manufactured in the UK back in the 70s. So a major part of the cost in the US is paying the extra $5, $10, or $15 for shipping internationally on a single badge. And also, though, and this is the big thing, I started on this quest before 2020. And let me tell you, 2020 was a massive year for fans of the jacket that are at any stage of building the penultimate costume piece.
Okay, so basically what you're telling me to do, Aaron, is that if I ever want to put together a Frank jacket, I need to schedule a vacation to England and buy all of these patches at the same time and get them shipped to some, like, fucking Burger King or something, and then just show up to the Burger King and be like, I would like my patches, please.
Or you reach out to one of the members on the group that we're going to talk about in a little bit, and they might help you out with that shipping.
Ooh, okay. Well, this year has really demonstrated the ubiquity of Facebook, and everyone had time in 2020 to spend on their social networks.
And all the time people have had to pursue hobby projects while working from home, or just all that time in quarantine instead of going out.
I think we'd also be remiss not to acknowledge the influence this year that platforms like Etsy and eBay have had. They've become a lot more ubiquitous, a lot easier to use, a lot more people are on them, and they're especially lenient towards products that operate in the gray area, stuff like unofficial reproduction pieces.
So, what happened this year in Jacketland? I always assumed it was just like all the other costume pieces. If you go on the Anal Costume site, there's a bunch of references from over the years.
And Columbia's Closet, which was created by Mina, had the most complete jacket reference and, like, the best pin reference. I guess you kind of have to hunt down some screenshots now or crawl through the Wayback Machine, as, sadly, Columbia's Closet is no longer accessible.
Yeah, those are the resources the community used for a really long time. Other people have also posted articles about their journey to craft the perfect Frank jacket. But one of the biggest changes this year was actually in the way that everyone working on their jackets coalesced around a single Facebook group. So before, a lot of the discussion happened over email or in private messages, but now there's finally a group that's both extremely active and full of incredibly knowledgeable people.
I've seen this group. You're talking about the Rocky Horror Picture Show Frank's Leather Jacket Badges and Patches group.
It is a mouthful, but...
Yeah, honestly, it sounds like an Amazon item.
But yeah, that's the one. It was created by UK-based superfan Dave Spelling around the end of July this year.
So this group is like a who's who of community members who just love their jackets. Sean Anthony, Davey Orr, Brandon Citrina, Jeff Baker, Andrew Davies, Nick Inferter, Zephyr from RKO, and like 150 other members. Literally anyone who you have said, oh yeah, they have a really nice Frank jacket, like odds are they're in this group.
Yeah, the group really brought together the community around this one specific costume piece. Everyone in this group always on the lookout for pieces that others might need. They post badges as they come up on auction sites. They help each other out. What's probably the biggest thing, though, to happen this year with the jacket is the amazing amount of reproduction badges and patches. And even the leather jacket itself became available as reproductions this year. So a lot of the original badges are available online, generally through eBay, Etsy, that kind of stuff. And they can range anywhere between a few dollars all the way up to $200 to $300 for a single pin. So as such, a lot of the reproductions have been made over the years, but never at the scale that they were finally made available in 2020. So in the past, people would make these repros, and you had to hunt them down through the news groups or bulletin boards or LiveJournal or blogs or directly emailing somebody. So now, between the relative ease of ordering bulk custom manufactured enamel pins and the ease of selling on Facebook Market, Etsy, or eBay, a bunch of people put a ton of work this year into making replicas available for everybody to have at reasonable prices.
I've seen a bunch of these. Sometimes I like to dip around Etsy looking at random Rocky crap, but I've definitely seen a bunch of these replicas. Tyler, who runs WildAndUntamedThings on Etsy, makes reproductions of many of the hard-to-find patches, the big tiger on the back, the skull and crossbones, and several others.
He also makes the reproduction Brad patches, so if any of you need one of those for your Brad jacket, I think every Brad that I know, including me, has one of his patches.
Yeah, David Spelling in the UK and Zephyr from RKO have been making replica badges and producing them like absolute madmen. Between the two of them, there are now 13 of the different badges available. And because there's duplicates on this jacket, that accounts for 28 of the total badges that you need to finish the jacket. So if you're in the US, Zephyr has a bundle of all of them for under $200 on his Etsy, TheEdisonBoutique. And if you're across the pond, you can just reach out to Dave on Facebook and he'll hook you up.
And that is way more fucking affordable. And there's like 70 something badges, so that's like a third all in one swoop that you can go buy today. And these are the hard to find ones that you are probably going to have to pay like top end prices of like $50 to $100 a piece.
Yeah, Dave and Zephyr have been working with a ton of folks this year. People on this group have been contributing measurements, like busting out their calipers kind of measurements, photos, sizes, all of this stuff to determine the most perfect replica and making sure that those are the ones that get reproduced. One of the people who contributed massively to this effort is Brandon Citrina, who also shared the story this year of his quest to seek out the last remaining unknown badge. This is what he shared.
I wanted to share a story about my search for info on the Adoramus Dominium badge.
So that's the big silvery badge that's on the far right side of Frank's breast. It looks like a coat of arms or a family crest or a badge for a club or association. We didn't know.
I reached out to Sue Blaine to see if by any chance she would respond and the even smaller chance she would remember. She actually remembered. However, she informed me that Tim Curry provided it and she liked it so much she decided to keep it. Now, many people have guessed that it was a badge from a school Tim or his parents went to. People also thought it may be an insignia from his father's time in the Royal Navy. However, no one has had luck finding its origin. So I decided to drop the cash to have a one-on-one talk with Tim Curry with GalaxyCon. Unfortunately, its true origin is still unknown. Tim purchased this badge from a shop on Kings Road. At the time, the shop was called Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die. It's now called World's End. The badge came off the jacket of a motorcyclist who died in a crash. So I don't know we will ever know the true origin, but it was exciting to talk with Sue Blaine and Tim Curry to get some more info.
Amazing story, and a great example of taking advantage of the unique circumstances in 2020. Like things like the virtual GalaxyCon appearances, to be able to talk directly one-on-one with Tim, to try to hunt down the mystery. That is super cool, even if it wasn't the answer that everyone wanted.
But that didn't even deter Brandon. He worked to create an incredibly high-quality replica based on all of the screenshots and pictures that do exist. And for the first time in 2020, extremely accurate replicas were made available to the community. Brandon also produced replicas for the last unknown patch that had evaded the community also for 45 years. That's the Butlins patch that appears on the bottom back side of the jacket.
Butlin.
Ha ha ha. But that's not the only big news in reproductions this year. I saw that a bunch of places have been making screen-accurate reproduction leather jackets. I thought we knew what the original was. Why are people looking for alternatives?
So, the closest thing out there to the original leather jacket itself is Arista Leather's Plainsman. The same company that made them back in the day makes them now, and they will set you back between $1,300 and $2,000 new, depending on which type of leather you use and which type of material.
Oh, good. So we just had the $1,500 for the jacket to the $2,000 for the pins. And I was not a math major in college, but I see that the grand total to build that Frank jacket is, by my estimates, a fuck ton. Like a metric fuck ton of money.
Yeah, you can see why the community has been searching for alternatives. Fortunately, there are a ton of near accurate or even some original Plainsmans that pop up on eBay and other sites once in a while. Those will go for a few $100s, much more reasonable.
Sure, if you're lucky enough to find one in the right size and all that.
Exactly, which is why this year we saw 2 new companies actually produce reproduction jackets at vastly lower prices. Community members Ryan P.J. Mulholland and Dave Spelling, again, worked with Halcon Leather, they're a company out of the Middle East, to produce a fantastic and affordable replica. And Zephyr from RKO, names are a little familiar, right, guys? Worked with a company called Magnoli Clothiers to produce an extremely high-quality replica. So you got 2 different options now. My screen accurate Eddie jacket is a replica from Magnolia. They do fantastic work, but they are also a little more expensive. Either way, both of these are available for between half and a quarter off the price of the original Plainsman. So between like $250 to $700, depending again on the materials and the size and all of this other stuff.
Right, but that's way more in the ballpark. Like a couple $100 is just how much a nice leather jacket costs.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
This is all, like, just really cool. I mean, so lots of reproductions, both of the badges, the patches, and the leather jacket base this year. I bet everyone's been grabbing that stuff as soon as it drops.
I know I am. Nobody can dispute it. The tireless effort of the community members just contributed to 2020 being a great year for the Frank jacket. We saw tons of new information and details brought to light. These replicas flooded the market in the best way possible, making it so much more approachable for newcomers to start their collection. And community members reached out to form new relationships with manufacturers, and that produced in producing lower cost alternatives for the base for the whole friggin' project.
So, all told, if I'm looking to get into building the jacket now in 2021, how much did waiting save me? Like, what's the math?
So, all told, based on my spreadsheets and doing some back of the napkin kind of math, if you were starting from scratch this year, the total cost to you has dropped a few $1,000s just by waiting.
That's a ton, but the math checks out. You save a fortune buying the new replica badges and patches, some of which were in the hundreds for just a single original, if you could even find them.
Plus, the cost of an accurate jacket base being cut in half, if not even more.
Yeah, it's been a great year for Frank jackets, that's for sure. All the links to the Facebook group, the online stores where you can buy the repros, all of that stuff's going to be in our show notes. You should go check it out. It is awesome.
Do you have a super sweet story about a costume piece you've worked on? Or are super proud and want to brag? Hit us up on any of our social media accounts, all at Rocky Talkie Podcast.
Nice.
Was that good? Yeah, you like that?
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's nice.
Right.
Hi, I'm Kelly,
And I'm Leandra, and we host Rocky Horror Minute.
the podcast where we discuss the Rocky Horror Picture Show in excruciating detail 1 minute at a time.
We're doing this show to share our love of the lyrics. You've never seen a prune in real life.
No,
Okay.
they're not the same as raisins, right?
Our passion for performance.
Oh my god! I was like, bad knees, stupid, sober.
Our attention to detail. I know that everybody's curious. That car is a 1964 Ford Falcon Deluxe Sedan 4-door 54D.
And to unlock secrets that would otherwise be lost to time.
Oh, are you asking if I know the name of the cheetah and why it had such a problem with the snake? Visit us on the web at rockyhorrorminute.com for more information.
Or look for us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And with that, let's move on to Nicki Asks a Question, Personal Edition.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this segment's going to be a little different this week. Because we got kind of deep into all the jacket stuff and community news, we decided we wanted to keep Nicki Asks a Question light and use it to get to know each other a little better. That's fun, right?
Yeah, so we each came up with some cast and show-related questions, and we're going to take turns asking and answering. And also, if any of our listeners have a good answer for any of these, please feel free to write into us, and we will read your answer in our Big Dick Storytime segment.
All right, cool. Who wants to go first?
John does.
John.
Yeah. So, what is the quickest that you had to learn a role, and why?
Oh, boy, that one's kind of hard. Because generally when I'm going to take on a new role, I am super anal about it. I'll be buying costume pieces months out, and I will be working on the blocking probably a couple weeks beforehand. Also, I've done everybody, and I've been doing it for so long that, like, short of if I'm going to sit down and play Magenta or something, I don't know that there's a whole lot of blocking that I have to sit down and learn for a role. Quickest I ever, it's probably around a week. There might have been a time where I had to do Frank and only had a couple days notice on it, but I still always had multiple hours to figure something out.
Quickest that I've ever had to learn a role, and albeit this isn't like learning a role, like Aaron said, I think I've always had at least 24 hours to learn a character just because of somebody like dropping out last minute and there would be nobody to replace them. And because I was going to be at the show anyway, Meg would be like, hey, do you want to play this character? That's actually how I played the majority of my characters. The characters that I actually like, quote unquote, auditioned for and like performed regularly were Brad, Riff, Frank, and I think that's it. Every other character, it was like, hey, John, we need somebody to play this character. Can you play? And I was like, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. But I think the quickest I've had to learn a role is my very first time performing ever, where it was Cast in a Hat. And I know Cast in a Hat doesn't count, but like you said, Aaron, when it comes to performing, I try to be as accurate as I possibly can be for my own sake. Like, it makes me feel good. And that night, I was dressed as Riff Raff. Nice. It was my first time performing ever, and I pulled Columbia.
Wow.
So that, I think that was the fastest I've ever had to actually like sit down and learn a role, because I pulled my partner Savannah, who was a regular Columbia on our cast, outside, and I was like, look, this is my first time performing. I'm losing my mind. I'm so freaking out right now. I pulled the one character I know literally nothing about. So she ran through like this big crash course with Columbia, and I think I did pretty okay.
Nice. You do make a sexy disco ball, John.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
I don't know if mine counts. I think mine counts. I, like, right when I joined cast, probably like 2 months into me being on cast, I had only played like a Transylvanian. They announced that they were doing like a theme show, and it was going to be comic book night, so everybody was going to dress as comic book characters and like do all this fun stuff. And my director just said, like, message me what character you're going to dress as, and I will assign roles. So like, it wasn't like I'm gonna play Columbia as this. You were just like, I dressed as Spider-Gwen. So I just texted her, I'm gonna dress as Spider-Gwen. And then like a week later, she wrote the cast list, and 17-year-old me, who had never performed and didn't know shit about the show, got Columbia. And I was like, oh my fucking God, what am I gonna do? And this was on like a Wednesday. Like, it was probably my bad, but I was like, holy shit, this is bad. So I did it. I got it all together, and it was such a fun show. It's one of my happiest memories. But it's like, I love that shit. I love being thrown on stage and being like, oh my God, this is either going to go fantastic or I'm going to cry afterwards. We'll see. Like,
I love that. That's great. All right. So next question up here. What are some differences around cast hangouts? Some places have bars, diners, drive-ins and dives, and things like that. So What are they? I mean, I know in New York we go to the bar after the show. It's the city that never sleeps, so we just go drink right after we finish performing.
Yeah, we go to Jake's Saloon right down the street from the Chelsea Cinepolis Theater. It's not the only place that we've gone.
No.
After shows, we've done the Malibu Diner, which is just right down there. There's the Papaya place that's right on the corner that sometimes we'll go to and get some food and just kind of like linger outside. There was one time we went to the gay bar Barracuda right on the opposite side. So like we go to some varied places after the show, but usually it's, well, at least now it's Jake's. I know that everyone used to go to East of 8th, which was literally right next door to the Rocky Theater, but it has since closed down.
Yeah, we're real lucky being in New York where bars are open until 4 o'clock in the morning. So if we get out at 2:30 from doing a show, we can still go hang out and chat and grab some drinks. And honestly, there's been plenty of times after the bar is shut down, we've wandered up to Koreatown and gone and done karaoke until 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So New York is one of those weird places where you can just keep partying all night long.
Yeah, my first time going like out with you guys after a show was definitely jarring because FNS, I really love it. FNS we do after every show. We go to IHOP. There's like an IHOP that's like 15 minutes down the road. And
Nice.
It's 24 hours. And I guess, they've been going there since before I was on cast, and I'm assuming much longer before that. Because, like, there's always a table that's put together and cleared and waiting for FNS, and the staff knows everybody, and it's so, like, it's just, like, calm and cool, and the audience will come and sit with us. And it's just nice. Like, we have, like, this hectic show, and then, like, we go to, like, this diner full of makeup and weird outfits, and we just, like, eat pancakes and bullshit. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I'll be realistic with you. Like, I don't drink, so when we go to Jake's, I just kind of, like, sit there and vibe. Or I'll get, like, a nice, delicious Diet Coke courtesy of our director, Meg. I would love to go to an IHOP after a Rocky show.
It's very nice.
Most parts of the country, actually, their Rocky shows always end up at a Perkins or an IHOP or any kind of diner afterwards. That's
Denny's.
where Denny's is right, the one that's always mentioned. You get stuff in like the purity test where they're talking about, have you been kicked out of a diner for throwing sugar packets around, or taking the creamers and doing the squirty thing with it, like all that crazy shit that you shouldn't do. We don't condone it, but it's kind of part of that like diner experience for Rocky people.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so next question is, what is the closest a show has come to just flat out not happening? See, I personally do not have an answer to this because with the amount of people at NYC and the hustle mentality with a lot of our cast members, there is nothing that will prevent us from just like flat out not having a show, aside from things that are like out of our control, like COVID. There was one time that a bomb went off literally like right next to the theater. We obviously did not have that show. So but aside from that, I feel like the show has almost always gone on for us.
Yeah, I've only really experienced it when I was on the Midwest casts. And the thing about casts in other parts of the country is that, like, in some cases, there's only maybe 10 people on this cast or 8 people, and some weeks only 6 of them show up. I've done shows where there's only been 3 cast members who've been able to show up, and you just got to go, well, I guess I'm doing Frank and you're doing Brad and you're doing Janet, and let's see if we can drag up 6 people from the audience. Now, if your audience is only 6 people, then you're performing to nobody, and it's a really weird and awkward show. But you still have a show. I've never had one where it just didn't happen because of that. It's always been extenuating circumstances, like John was describing.
Yeah, we on FNS, we have like obviously a little different of an environment to NYC because we're a much smaller cast in terms of that. And there's been a couple times where like it's been up in the air, but my cast leadership is always really good at like just making shit happen out of thin air. But there was this one show that like I'll never forget because it was like one of the best nights of my life. We're the Friday night specials. We do shows every Friday night, and they had booked a secondary show on a Friday night at this place called The Brook. It's in Bound Brook in New Jersey. It's like a historical theater. It's the most gorgeous theater. The stage is so tall. It was like it's just so historic. It was so cool. It was like an actual like music theater. Like it was like a theater. It was dope. I don't know. We perform in a movie theater, so it was very different to be like on a stage and have like backstage, and There was like a balcony. I don't know. I was geeking out.
That's awesome. It's so fun to get to do those kind of shows.
But we had to do 2 shows. And first of all, we only had props for 1 show. So the week before the show, the entire cast came together and we recreated every single prop that we had. So we had 2 sets of props to have for both shows. But then it comes down to the fact that our cast wasn't big enough to do 2 full cast lists. So basically they sent all of us that were performing at the Brook. There was like, I don't know, 12 of us. We only had 2 transies. I think Eddie and Dr. Scott was the same person, which we don't normally do. And then my boyfriend, Josh. And that was it. So, like, all of us that were on stage were performing. And my boyfriend, Josh, was backstage just, like, doing everything. He was moving all the props. He was helping people get changed. He had a walkie-talkie. He was doing the lights. He ended up getting a job from that, which was really cool. But, like, poor kid, like, suffering. And then our home show, it was whoever was left on cast that didn't go to the Brook stayed there and like performed or did props and stuff. And they brought in a bunch of alumni. And I think Meg and Aaron, you guys actually performed at that show. You guest performed for us. Yeah.
We totally did. I forgot about that.
You guys were able to come in. Like, it was just so cool. Everybody came together to make these 2 shows happen. And it was a lot of, like, it was just so much fun. It was so much fun.
That's another good point about, like, any of these shows that if you're worried that they don't happen, especially on the East Coast here, and John, you can speak to this a lot, it's real easy to call up alumni, to call somebody from another cast. I mean, hell, you know, you bounce up and down, going to all kinds of shows.
Yep. It also helps living with an NYC alum too, because I know for a fact that like if me and Savannah are leaving to the show one night and Meg calls me and is like, "Hey, I need a Rocky. There's literally not a single Rocky available right now. Can you please ask Adam?" I can just turn around and be like, "Adam, you're playing Rocky tonight. Get your shit. Let's go." Like.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that in the past we've even gone as far, you know, in the extreme circumstances of like calling up people and going, "Okay, is your boyfriend like hot enough to be on stage and want to wear a Speedo?"
That's
like,
Adam, Adam and his ex. Yep.
Exactly, right? You can even grab them that way. I know that one of the casts I was on used to always grab, you know, boyfriends, girlfriends, plant them in the second row and say, "You're flipping off these lights and turning them back on all night.
Yep.
Your ticket's comped. Here, go. Flip the switches." So, yeah, it's great. I mean, the Rocky community always finds a way, right?
Yep.
How has the role Rocky has played in your life changed over the years?
It definitely has changed for me at least 3 times. This is really surprising because, like, the first time that I actually saw the Shadowcast was actually the first time I even saw the movie, too, which is wild because, like, I love musical theater. I loved, like, the soundtrack of the Rocky Horror Show and all that stuff, but I'd never seen the movie. And the first time that I went to go see it was when Savannah and I were starting to date, and they were like, "Hey, I'm debuting as Columbia tonight. Do you want to come see me perform?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So the first time, like the first thing that Rocky was as a role for me was just like a fun weekend thing that I would do. I would see my partner perform, and it would be really cute to be able to support them and everything like that. And as a result of that, I started to get to know the cast. And then it came to the point where for like a stretch of like 6 or 7 months or so, I was the cast quote-unquote photographer. I would use Savannah's camera. You know, they have a nice fancy DSLR camera. I would use it during the show, and I would be there at least once a week to the point where people would be asking Savannah, "Is John coming tonight? Because I want him to take good pictures of me."
I remember that.
So that was my role in Rocky, at least. Like, I was a photographer for like the better part of a year for the cast. I wasn't on cast. I still paid my way for the most part, and I would come and, you know, take pictures. And that was just a really cool hobby that I didn't even know that I had until I started doing it. So Rocky kind of helped me create that hobby. I'm not a photographer by any stretch of the imagination, but now at least I know how to work my way around a camera.
That's a great skill, right?
Yeah. And then eventually I joined the cast, and then that was the role that Rocky had in my life. It was not just a fun thing that I like to do on the weekends and, you know, lend my skills to the cast. It was, I am now a cast member. I am now part of a community theater project.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is not just something fun that I like to do. Now it's become a hobby. A very weird, eclectic hobby, but it always gets a good reaction whenever you tell somebody that you're part of a Rocky Horror Shadowcast. And now, the role that Rocky plays in my life, because I'm an assistant director of the New York City cast, is completely different, because not only is it a hobby, but now it's kind of like a professional development opportunity for me. because I work in higher education. So I do leadership development and organizational management for work. I have a master's in it. So now that I have a master's in it, this is actually an area where I can use what I've learned in my master's courses and apply it to the cast that I help oversee. So like it went from just being something that was just a fun thing that I like to do on the weekends to a literal professional development opportunity that I actively put on my resume to prove that I can run organizations.
That's super cool. I mean, my story's kind of got the same arc and journey, right? I think anybody who's been around for a long time kind of does. I started off in the Midwest. I was just on a small cast. I only, showed up and performed and all of that. When I moved to New York, I joined the New York cast, and same kind of thing, right? I was just, another Eddie in the rotation, and I'd come in and do my stuff. I got really close with a lot of cast members and a lot of the cast leadership. I ended up taking on some leadership opportunities to, be part of the drama. Let's put it like that. And then, my role slowly dwindled and I shifted out, for a little bit. But I've always been doing Rocky stuff related to the work that I do, similar to what you were talking about, Sean. I'm a software developer by day, and I use Rocky to kind of be the content that I use to test out new ideas that I have when I'm testing out new software patterns, or I'm trying out a new framework, or I'm doing one of these things. Odds are I'm going to lean to build a Rocky project with it. That's why I've built projects like the Rocky News site or the Rocky streaming site, and I maintain, the New York City cast site. So even my other hobbies, I've tied directly back into Rocky. Take that for what it is. I might be of just a single track mind on that one. So, all right, this next one's real funny. When were you most embarrassed on stage?
Oh
God, I have so many of these.
I mean, aside from like basic costume malfunctions, like a corset zipper busting or your balls falling out of your underwear, things like that, because I don't get embarrassed often, and I don't even know if this one counts as embarrassment, but more just general confusion. I think Aaron, you'll remember this. So there was this one show with NYC. I was Brad, and it was just like any other night. I was on stage, I was being Brad, I think I hosted the show, I don't remember, but I was Brad, whatever. There was this one audience member. I don't know who he is. I still have never met this man. And he was alone, too, from what I know. Every single time I came out on stage, this man went absolutely fucking apeshit. Like, every single time, and would just, like, as if I was like fucking Beyonce and I came out on stage and everyone lost their mind. But it was just him. I don't know who he was. I still don't know who he is. But every single time I came out on stage, he screamed and cheered. And then when I went out for my bow, this man stood up, started clapping and hooting and hollering. And then he yelled, "That's it. That's Mr. Big Cock." And I, like, got a little red-faced because I was like, why am I getting so... Like, I have a gigantic ego. You should pay attention to me. But why is this man who does not know me, did not come up to me at the end of the show, call me Mr. Big Cock? Like, was my dick hanging out the entire show and nobody wanted to tell me? Did I have, like, a better-than-average bulge that night as Brad? I don't know. But he called me Mr. Big Cock. And then for, like, a month after that, half of the cast, every single night I performed, every time I came out on stage, they would start shouting like Mr. Big Cock things at me. There was this one night I was trying to get footage for a audition for, I think it was RKO, and in the stock footage, you can just hear the people who are recording me going, "Wow, I've heard that John's dick is absolutely fucking gigantic." And I had to discard, like, all of that footage because I couldn't use it because I kept laughing. My fake Instagram account, my Finsta, as you will, was Mr. Big Cock. It has been deleted by Instagram because I was trolling somebody on it.
Wait, really?
Fine. Yeah, it's
I had
gone,
no
and
idea.
they won't give it to me again because it was called Mr. Big Cock.
Oh my God.
It's
Nikki's
fine.
like, I followed Mr. Big Cock for years.
Yeah,
I
Nikki
did.
was one of my original followers on my Finsta.
Yeah,
Like, her
John had
Finsta
some of my
followed
fan
mine.
art on Mr. Big Cock.
Yeah. So yeah, that was probably one of the most embarrassing, aside from, like, a wardrobe malfunction, my dick falling out of my pants, like things like that, like everybody has happened to.
Yeah,
But
that just happens. It's Rocky.
Yeah, but like being called Mr. Big Cock with no context and then having the cast not let me live it down for a month, I don't know if it was embarrassing, but it was certainly confusing.
Nice. Nikki, what do you got? What's your most embarrassing
God.
moment?
I have all like the normal girl, normal femme presenting malfunctions where it's like my wig fell off on stage and then I learned how to use like, glue. Or like I forgot to tape and had to do it during lab scene, just like dumb shit. But I have this one disgustingly vivid memory that I don't think I'll ever get over. And it's not even that big of a deal. I'm just a baby. In our theater, we have like 2 stages. So we have like a higher raised stage and then we have a floor stage, and we utilize both in our blocking.
Okay.
And there's a staircase on either side that you have to go up to get onto the big stage. So one show I was playing Columbia, and for like the scene where like the creation scene, Columbia, Magenta, and Frank are on stage. And then when Rocky gets out of the tank, we all run down the stairs and we go to Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
But, me being Nicki, I don't know what the fuck happened. I took like one step on the stair and my heel got caught on the higher step, but my body did not.
Ooh.
And I just went down. And like, it was not like a normal fall. It was like my knees hit the first step and I like bounced and like rolled and I got back up and my wig did not fall off and everything was fine. But like my stockings were torn. I was so embarrassed. And I like, that show was ruined for me. I wanted to go home. I was like, can someone else play Columbia? I can't do this tonight. Like, it was so bad.
Oh my God, I was hosting the show and I accidentally gave my address out because I was running with a joke. And the joke went way too far, and I didn't even notice I had done it until I got off stage, and I went up to Meg, and Meg was like, you gotta talk to Savannah right now. She is pissed at you. I was like, what did I do? So I ran out there, and she was like, you fucking idiot! You gave our address out live on stage! And I was like, oh shit, I did. And I was Frank that night, and holy shit, my face was so red. Thank God y'all couldn't see me because I was caked in white foundation, but holy shit.
Oh my
man.
God.
Two different varieties of face plants right there. Jeez.
Why do you think some people stay at Rocky for only a little while others become lifers?
That's a good one. I mean, everyone kind of talks about this at some point, once, a diner conversation or whatever. And I think that the thing that I've always said about it is that there's kind of progressive stages that you go through with Rocky, right? You first join Rocky, you're real excited to be there, you're excited to find out about all the stuff. Things like the castle as a hotel is actually an interesting thing for you to kind of be into. But that doesn't last very long, right? I mean, that only lasts maybe a couple months to a year or whatever. You kind of get into the swing of it, you find your friends, you enjoy the performing aspects that you like. And then you kind of may have a change in your life situation. You might, graduate college, or you might, go off to work a new job, and you kind of make a call whether Rocky is still something that you're revolving your schedule around or not. And a lot of people filter out around that 2-year period or so. The next group I always talk about is like the 5-year people who, make it the hobby they do for all of college, or they're around for, high school and through college or something like that. They kind of shift out after, their friend group has evaporated out of Rocky. And then you've got the lifers who are there hell or high water for all time because they are obsessed with the movie. They love the people. They love the thing. There was a while where I thought that I might have ended up as, a 5-year thing, but no, it's 15 years later, so I definitely end up in that last category.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about like why people stay at Rocky for a little bit while others, are there forever, also it kind of depends on the location of the cast as well. Like, for example, with New York City, we have a tremendous amount of overturn, but that's just because New York City in and of itself has a tremendous amount of overturn. We get a lot of college students who are moving to New York City for the first time, who don't understand how to balance their workflow and their hobbies. And, we are one of the only casts, if not the only cast, that performs every Friday and Saturday. And when you start on NYC, you got to be there every Friday and Saturday. So it actually does become quite a time commitment at the beginning. A lot of folks don't understand that, especially because they're first year, a sophomore in college, and they don't know how to balance that. So they end up, piecing out. And there's no harm in that because at least we're offering a learning experience to those people.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we get people that are coming in and out because of just the way that New York City is.
Yeah, and what's one of those, you ask every new person coming in a question about their friend group and stuff. Why don't you tell our listeners that one that you always ask?
Yeah, so there is a question that we usually ask people during the NYC interview. We typically bring up the idea of like, this is going to be your friend group. Whether you like it or not, these are going to be the people that you actively see every weekend. You're going to hang out with these people. You're going to go to parties with these people. You are going to host parties and invite these people. And then everybody else that is not part of Rocky is going to leave early because they feel uncomfortable because they're not part of like that in joke. You know what I mean?
Fucking hard truth.
And sometimes people really like that, and sometimes people don't like that. So you find a lot of the people who want to keep their Rocky life and their personal life separate, and they just find out that they just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you always have, because it's an interview, you know, nobody's ever going to be like, well, no, actually, I don't want that. So everyone always says, yeah, that actually sounds great. I love kind of bringing these, you know, two different groups of people together. But then the people who don't like it always leave first.
Yep. I mean, that's just the way it is. But like, it's so true. You put 10 Rocky people in a room and 5 non-Rocky people, the conversation's going to be about Rocky, and the other 5 people might as well just go to a bar down the street. Like, they're not going to be able to follow it. And, you know, we've all been to those parties, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I host those parties.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
All right, so what is the biggest shit show performance you've been a part of? Like the one with the most like insane amount of issues. I personally have never been part of like any other crazy shit show. Like there's a few times where like I remember that like the theater has oversold our tickets and then they get mad at us even though it's not our fault. But at the same time, we only have like 1 person on lights and 2 people on props and it's super hectic and everyone is stressed out. Like I know those kinds of shows. But aside from that, for me, the thing that immediately comes to my mind, like it wasn't a show that I was part of, but the Rocky Horror performance that they did at YinzCon where the audio just wasn't working.
Oh, God.
I mean, the only part of it was my friend 13's birthday. She's a very well-respected Shadowcaster in the community. Mm-hmm. She was playing Janet and was super stressed out. And it was also her birthday, so I got everyone to chant her name over and over and over again. So I felt like I was a part of it. But I wasn't a part of that at all. I was just watching that happen, and it was probably one of my favorite Rocky Horror memories in general. Just seeing Thurge, who was playing Riff Raff, get so excited that everything started happening again, and it happened like right at Time Warp. He grabbed the coffin they were using and literally threw it across the stage. It was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen, but at the same time, there was not a level of energy that I've ever seen in a Rocky Horror performance than when the people who did the Time Warp for that performance were able to do it just as the music started working.
Dude, my favorite part of that memory in particular from that convention is when the audio went out and suddenly the entire audience stops doing audience participation lines and instead in unison starts doing the actual lines from the movie.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was so surreal to just like, oh yes, we're not doing AP now, we're doing the movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was actually wild, and like I feel weird actually even calling it a shit show because
No.
I'm sure from a logistical standpoint it was probably a huge shit show for everyone at JCCP to have to deal with that. But from our end, it was a really cool way to see how the community collectively banded together and created like a cohesive, or attempted to create a cohesive thing because they saw that another cast was struggling.
Yeah, it was super fun. I loved that convention. I wouldn't call it a shit show, but boy, if you were part of that and you were the ones running around scrambling trying to fix the audio, I bet you would have called it a shit show among a bunch of other words.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird because, like, I have my story of the show with the most insane issues is very similar to that, but on, like, the opposite spectrum. I also wouldn't call it a shit show. I think it was a really dope show. We got word a year ago that our home theater, where we had been for the past 14 years, was closing.
Aw.
And so we needed to find a new theater, and there was one in Red Bank, New Jersey, that was, like, the same company. So they were like, why don't you do a trial show here a few weeks before you have to, like, leave your actual theater and see if you like it. So we did. We got as many people as we could to come to this new theater, and we were looking into it. And we did a trial show. I was playing Janet, and we were all, like, so fucking nervous. And halfway through the show, like, right when Janet comes out and she's like, what's happening here? Where's Brad? Where's anybody? Bedroom scene just started repeating. Like, Brad's bedroom scene happened again. So we were like, we don't know what's happening. So we just did bedroom scene again. But, like, I came on stage And then it happened again. And this, like, then Crim and Magenta did it, and we were like, what the fuck is going on? And then the audio continued, and the screen just went black. Oh. And we were like, we don't know what the fuck to do. So we kept doing the scene, and the audience was very clearly like, what the fuck is going on? But my director, Ryan, who I think was performing that night and just, like, ran off stage to go figure it out. He's very good at saying the perfect thing to get people riled up. So he turned on his mic. And he said something along the lines of, like, clearly we have no fucking video, but if you're willing to sit through it, we will continue the show. The actors know the movie like the back of their hands, and they can fucking do this. There's a video of this exact moment. I have never heard an audience, like, erupt with such an uproar. Like, they were going fucking crazy at the idea that we were just going to do it blind. And we did the rest of the movie with no video, only audio. And, like, floor show was the craziest thing I've ever done. Like, the audience, every single step that we took, they were screaming. Like, they felt like they were a part of the problem, you know? They felt like they were in with the secret. So everything we did was just, like, the dopest thing to them. And it was, like, such an issue. Like, it was a show with so many issues, but it was so worth it in the end because we felt, like, so fulfilled because it was such, like, a different show compared to what we were used to.
That's an awesome story.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Man, you think you're going to watch a movie and then partway through, turns out you're here for a theatrical performance. Just watch us, we know our shit. That's super cool.
Let's try this one. Have you ever tried to eat a pizza or anything else off a theater floor? Aaron, you got an answer for us, buddy?
I have never succeeded in eating a pizza or anything else.
But have you
off
ever
of a
tried?
theater floor.
You know, have you ever attempted?
I am very clear. I have never succeeded in eating. Yeah, I mean, you guys know Rocky. Sometimes you show up at Rocky and you've had a few too many, or a few dozen too many, and you know, you get some pizza so you can sober yourself up and have a good time. Sometimes, you know, you're trying to change into a costume, you drop that pizza. And, I mean, it's still pizza.
And, you know, sometimes you're in dinner scene and the audience is throwing toast at you and it hits the floor, but you're feeling a little hungry at that moment and you just kind of eat it. Sometimes you just eat it. Sometimes you put it in your Brad underwear for later so you can pull it out during a gag during Planet Schmanet, you know? Sometimes when you're playing Brad or Janet and you crawl through the audience during Superheroes and you just, like, grab a fistful of somebody's popcorn. Or you grab their water and you drink it. Oh my God, we are never going to be able to do this kind of shit.
Yeah, these are gone. All of these gags, never again.
Yep. So safe to say is yes, I have.
Yeah, I don't know why you're calling me out, Nikki. Between John and I, one of us eats something off the floor on every single show, and it's not me.
That is so upsetting. I don't want to call you out, Aaron. But I know that there's a pizza story in there somewhere, and I know that it's deeper than you're letting it up to be. So please enlighten us all about the pizza story.
Okay, so the real story here that Nikki wants me to tell is not a story of me trying to eat pizza off the floor of a theater, although I'm sure that's probably happened. The real story here is me being at the pizza place next door to our theater and trying to order a slice. And if you know me, I like to wear baggy pants, and sometimes I don't wear a belt with those baggy pants. I think we can see where this is going. So I order my pizza, I'm standing there, I'm kind of... I've been drinking at the bar across the street, and I'm getting my pizza, and I'm all ready to order it, and I'm so focused on it that I don't notice that my pants decided to just fall down and be around my ankles. So, being drunk that I am, I don't think, well, I gotta set down my pizza and deal with this problem. No, I've got my pizza in one hand while I'm kind of squatting down now to try and pick up the pants from around my ankles and pull them up to the top, and I'm just kind of... The girl that was with me at the time just took away the pizza, calmly was like, pull your pants up, you piece of shit, we're leaving. And then I went next door and sobered up enough to play Eddie.
And on that note, I think that's all we have for this week. We want to thank Harley for writing in to share their news, and we want to thank all of you for tuning in. We know the past few days have been mentally and emotionally challenging for a lot of our listeners. We love all of you, and we hope that our show has been able to bring some fun to a rough few weeks.
If you're enjoying the show and want to help us spread the word about it, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. It helps us make our podcast more visible to new listeners, which helps us to grow the show. Also, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Rocky Talkie Podcast. So please go check us out if you like us and want more content.
And please write to us. We love getting message submissions from you guys. We look forward to chatting with you all week. We want to hear about all the cool Rocky stuff you and your cast are working on, and we want to share it on our show. If you're working on a Rocky-related project you're excited about, if your cast is doing a special show and you want to spread the word, or if you've got an amazing story from your Rocky Horror career, go to our website, rockytalkiepodcast.com, and fill out our contact form and share your story with us.
And with that, we'll talk to all of you next week. Bye!
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 See ya!
Bye.
Sorry. I was typing something. Yeah, whoa!
Spooky.
Now, we absolutely are not a political show, but we'll tell you about MPP quickly. PP.
PP.
MPP. Mr. PP.
One super... I don't know why
Sorry.
it made me laugh. We have one... Okay.
Sorry,
We
my
have one
health is
sup-
funny to
John,
you.
John, let me do what I need to do.
Nah, I want to be here all night.
Oh my god. Okay. Tesseract's virtual shows towards what the why can't I say that fucking word? Towards. Is that correct?
Sure.
What the fuck? I'm like having a stroke. Okay.
So a lot of people choose to cover up, cross out, or like otherwise... What the fuck is that word?
Obfuscate.
Obfuscate? I didn't even know that was a fucking word, and I have a master's. Jesus Christ.
That word's in Hamilton.
Where?
In the election of 1800.
I'm gonna fucking look this up right now.
It's
Yeah, I
also-
think so. Maybe
It's
that's
also
not
in
the
my
same word.
brain where it got written from.
It's he's very attractive in the Orthodox like his stances. He's not very forthcoming on any particular stances. Asking me a question, he glances off, he obfuscates, he dances.
Yeah, he does.
And they say I'm a
and then they
Francophile.
say at least they know I know where France is. Promise that's the problem. They see birds unless extreme you.
You need to change
course. A key endorsement right
Okay,
redeem you.
let's go back. We can do Hamilton later. Might be
Washington
nice.
isn't going to listen to discipline dissidents. This is a difference. This kid
This
is
kid
out.
is out.
Brr.
Oh,
So, so a lot of people choose to cover up, cross out, or otherwise obfuscate.
Super cool. No, that sounded so ingenuine.
Wow, Aaron, that's really neat.
Super cool.
Do you have a super sweet story? Hold on. I feel like I should say this in like a voice, you know?
Sure.
You know, do you have a super sweet story about a costume piece you've worked on? See ya!
Bye. Gotta
Get
go.
the fuck out of here.
Hey, settle down. Oh my god.
You're just mad your pants fell down.
God damn it.
You know what? I'll never understand why people get so embarrassed. People who are on Rocky get so embarrassed about their pants falling down in public, where we willingly do not wear pants during the show to begin with, you know?
I play Eddie, man. My pants stay on.
I've seen you play Brad.
My pants do not stay on for that.